You have been setting goals wrong your whole life. Not because you are stupid, not because you are lazy, but because you were taught a framework that is fundamentally broken. The framework says this: write down what you want. Set a deadline. Work backward. Create a plan. Execute. That is the goal-setting model. And it fails almost everyone who tries it. Look at the evidence. Every January, millions of people set goals. By February, 80% have quit. By March, the gyms are empty again. The books are unread. The diets are abandoned. The businesses are never started. And every year, the same people repeat the same cycle. New notebook, fresh start, massive effort, quiet collapse, shame, repeat. The goals did not fail because people lacked willpower. The goals failed because goals are the wrong unit of change. You cannot outperform your identity. And every goal you set is a silent confession that you are not yet the person who achieves it. The goal creates a gap. You are here, the goal is there. And every day you are not there, you feel the gap. The gap creates anxiety. The anxiety creates resistance. The resistance creates procrastination. And procrastination creates self-loathing. This is the cycle that breaks people. Not the difficulty of the work, the psychological cost of the gap. Here is the truth that changes everything. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your identity. Your goals are wishes. Your identity is gravity. And gravity always wins. This is not philosophy. This is not motivational poetry. This is how your brain is wired. And once you understand the wiring, you can stop fighting yourself and start working with yourself. Your brain is not a computer that executes commands. Your brain is a prediction machine that protects a story. The story is who you believe you are. Every action you take is filtered through that story. If the action matches the story, it feels easy, natural, automatic. If the action contradicts the story, it feels hard, forced, unsustainable. This is why a smoker can smoke 20 cigarettes a day without effort, but struggles to chew nicotine gum. The gum contradicts the smoker identity. The cigarettes confirm it. Let me prove it to you with one of the most remarkable studies ever conducted. In 1971, the United States government discovered something that terrified them. 20% of American soldiers stationed in Vietnam were actively addicted to heroin. Not casual users. Addicts. Men who were shooting up multiple times a day. Men who needed the drug to function. The government assumed they were about to face the worst addiction crisis in American history. They built treatment centers. They prepared emergency rooms. They braced for an epidemic that would overwhelm the country. Then the soldiers came home. And something impossible happened. Within 1 year, 95% of the addicted soldiers had stopped using heroin completely. Not through rehab, not through therapy, not through 12-step programs, not through medication. They simply stopped. Because they were no longer soldiers in a war zone. They were fathers, husbands, workers, students, neighbors. Heroin did not fit their new identity. So they stopped. Think about how remarkable that is. Heroin is one of the most addictive substances on earth. The physical dependency is brutal. The withdrawal symptoms include pain, vomiting, insomnia, and crushing depression. The relapse rate for heroin addicts in normal circumstances is astronomical. And yet these men stopped because their environment changed, and with it, their identity changed. They did not need more willpower. They did not need more discipline. They needed a different self-image. Researchers call this the context-dependent theory of learning. Your behaviors are not just habits living in isolation. They are tied to your sense of self and your surroundings. When both shift, the behavior shifts automatically. This is why so many people lose weight on vacation and gain it back at home. It is not the food. It is the identity they inhabit in each place. On vacation, they are explorers, adventurers, people who try new things. At home, they are the person who stress eats in front of the television. Same body, different identity, different behavior. This is the part the self-help industry does not want you to understand. Willpower is not the answer. Discipline is not the answer. Goals are not the answer. The answer is identity. Who you believe you are determines what you do, and what you do determines what you get. The chain always starts with identity, never with goals, never with motivation, never with tactics. A smoker who is trying to quit walks past a cigarette and feels temptation. A person who identifies as a non-smoker walks past a cigarette and feels nothing. Not resistance, not pride, nothing. Same situation, different identity, different behavior. The non-smoker does not need willpower because the cigarette is not an option. It is not who they are. It is not on their menu. This applies to everything. Let me give you another example that most people never consider. The person who stays in a toxic relationship is not someone who lacks courage. They are someone whose identity includes being the person who sacrifices, being the person who tries harder, being the person who fixes things. The relationship does not contradict their identity, it confirms it. They do not stay because they are weak, they stay because leaving would mean becoming someone who gives up, someone who failed, someone who could not make it work. And that identity feels worse than the toxic relationship. The relationship is painful, but the identity shift would be terrifying. So, they stay. The most, not because of the other person, because of who they believe they are. The person who finally leaves does so only when their identity changes. They become someone who values peace more than sacrifice, someone who values themselves more than the relationship. And once that identity shift happens, leaving is not hard. It is obvious. It is natural. The same person who could not leave for 5 years walks out in one afternoon, not because the situation changed, because they changed. The person who loses 50 pounds and keeps it off is not someone who dieted successfully. It is someone who became the kind of person who eats differently. The diet is not a restriction. It is an expression of who they are. The person who built a business is not someone who executed a business plan. It is someone who became the kind of person who solves problems for money. The business plan is not a chore. It is an expression of who they are. The person who fixed their relationship is not someone who learned better communication skills. It is someone who became the kind of person who shows up differently. The skills are not techniques. They are expressions of who they are. The goal is the event. The identity is the system. Events are temporary. Systems are permanent. When you focus on the event, you are always starting from zero. When you focus on the system, you are building a machine that produces the event automatically. The event happens once and ends. The system runs forever. Here is why this distinction matters so much. Every goal you set creates a psychological gap. You are here. The goal is there. And every day you are not there, you feel the gap. The gap creates anxiety. The anxiety creates resistance. The resistance creates procrastination. And procrastination creates self-loathing. This is the hidden cycle that destroys people, not the difficulty of the work. The emotional cost of being constantly reminded that you are not enough yet. But when you change your identity, there is no gap. You are not trying to become something. You are simply being something. The behavior is not a climb. It is an expression. An expression does not require motivation. It requires alignment. A tree does not need motivation to grow. It grows because that is what trees do. A river does not need discipline to flow. It flows because that is what rivers do. When your identity aligns with your behavior, the behavior becomes as natural as breathing. Let me make this concrete, not theory, not motivation, concrete. You want to write a book. The goal approach says, outline 300 pages, write 2,000 words a day, and finish in 6 months. You buy the software. You create the document. You write for 3 days. Then you miss a day. Then you miss 2 days. Then the document sits untouched for 3 months. Every time you open it, you feel the gap between 300 pages and where you are now. The gap crushes you. You close the laptop. You tell yourself you will come back to it. You never do. The identity approach says, become a writer. A writer writes, not because they have a deadline, because that is what writers do. So you write one sentence, then another, not to finish a book. To be a person who writes. The book is a side effect of the identity. If you write 1 paragraph a day, you will eventually have a book. But more importantly, you will be a writer. And a writer does not quit because the book is hard. A writer writes because not writing would be harder, because not writing would mean betraying who they are. You want to be wealthy. The goal approach says, make $100,000 this year. You create spreadsheets. You set milestones. You push for the numbers. Then, an unexpected expense hits. The milestone slips. The gap opens. You feel behind. You feel like a failure. You self-sabotage. You spend money you should not spend because the goal already feels lost. Why not enjoy yourself if you are failing anyway? The identity approach says become a person who manages money well. That person does not need a budget. They simply do not waste money because wasteful people are not who they are. They save automatically. They invest automatically. They say no to impulse purchases automatically, not because they are forcing themselves, because their identity does the work for them. A frugal person does not resist buying expensive shoes. Expensive shoes simply do not occur to them. It is not on their menu. You want to be fit. The goal approach says, lose 20 pounds by summer. You start strong. You cut calories. You exercise daily. You see some early progress. Then, the progress slows. The scale stops moving. The goal feels distant again. The gap opens. You feel deprived. You feel like the effort is not worth the result. You have a cheat day. Then, a cheat week. Then you quit until next January. The identity approach says, become an athlete. An athlete moves their body. An athlete fuels their body. An athlete does not debate whether to go to the gym. They go because that is what athletes do. The 20 pounds is a side effect. The identity is the cause. An athlete does not count calories. An athlete eats what an athlete eats. It is not restriction. It is expression. This is the method. Read this carefully. It is only 2 steps, but both steps must be done with total commitment. Half measures will fail. Hesitation will fail. You must decide completely. Then you must prove it repeatedly. There is no shortcut around the proving. Step 1. Decide who you want to be, not what you want to have, who you want to be. Use the 2-word formula. I am a writer. I am an athlete. I am a saver. I am a present partner. I am a learner. I am a non-smoker. I am a professional. I am a healthy person. I am a generous person. I am a focused person. The words must be simple. The words must be present tense. Not I will be, not I want to be, not I am trying to be, I am. Even if the evidence does not support it yet. Especially if the evidence does not support it yet. Because the evidence follows the decision, never the other way around. You do not wait to feel like a writer before you write. You write to become a writer. The feeling follows the action. The identity follows the votes. Step 2. Prove it to yourself with small wins. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you believe you are. A writer writes one sentence. An athlete does one push-up. A saver moves $1. A present partner puts the phone down for one conversation. A focused person works for 5 minutes without distraction. Each vote is small, but votes accumulate, and eventually the evidence becomes undeniable. Not to the world, to you, because you are the only audience that matters. This is how identity shifts happen, not through dramatic declarations, through tiny proofs, not through public announcements, through private votes, not through one big moment. Through 1,000 small moments that nobody sees. The world does not change you, you change you, one vote at a time. But here is something crucial that most people miss. Your environment is also voting. Your environment is constantly casting votes for your identity. If your kitchen is full of junk food, your environment is voting for the identity of someone who eats junk food. If your phone is on your desk, your environment is voting for the identity of someone who is distracted. If your running shoes are in the closet, your environment is voting for the identity of someone who does not run. You must redesign your environment to vote for the identity you want. Put the running shoes by the door. Put the book on your pillow. Put the savings transfer on autopilot. Put the vegetables at eye level in the fridge. Delete the apps that waste your time. Move the television out of the bedroom. Put the calendar where you will see it every morning. Design your space so that the default choice is the right choice. Willpower is a limited resource. Environment is unlimited. Use environment. This brings us to the concept of habit stacking. Every behavior you already have is an opportunity to cast a vote for your new identity. After I pour my morning coffee, I will write one sentence. After I sit down at my desk, I will do one push-up. After I close my laptop, I will read one page. After I brush my teeth, I will floss one tooth. The existing habit becomes the trigger for the new vote. You are not adding a new behavior to your day. You are attaching a new vote to an existing behavior. This is how you bypass resistance. Resistance fights new routines. Resistance does not notice tiny attachments. Now let me tell you what will go wrong. Because something always goes wrong. And if you are not ready for it, you will retreat to the old identity. The old identity is comfortable. It is familiar. It has gravity. And gravity wants you back. First, your past will argue with you. It will say you have never been this person before. It will show you evidence of failure. It will remind you of the times you tried and quit. It will say things like, "This is not who you are. You have always been lazy. You have always been broke. You have always been out of shape. You have always been scattered. This is normal." Your brain is a prediction machine. It predicts the future based on the past. When you act outside your past pattern, your brain sounds an alarm. It says, "This is not who we are. This is dangerous." Ignore the alarm. The alarm is just the old identity defending its territory. Every time you vote for the new identity, the alarm gets quieter. The old identity gets weaker. The new identity gets stronger. Second, the people around you will resist. Not because they are bad people, because your change threatens their image of you. If you have always been the unreliable friend, and suddenly you start keeping your word, they do not know how to relate to you. If you have always been the broke friend, and suddenly you start saving money, they feel judged. If you have always been the lazy friend, and suddenly you start waking up early, they feel threatened. Unquote. They will pressure you to go back. They will say you have changed. They will miss the old you. They will tell you to relax. They will tell you one drink will not hurt. They will tell you to live a little. Let them miss the old you. The old you was not working. The old you was stuck. The old you was miserable. You are not changing to hurt them. You are changing to save yourself. And the people who truly love you will adjust. They will learn the new you. They will celebrate the new you. The people who only loved the old you because the old you made them feel comfortable about their own stagnation, will fall away. Let them fall. You are building a new life, not decorating the old one. Third, you will look for results too early. After 1 week of being a writer, you will want to see pages. After 1 week of being an athlete, you will want to see muscles. After 1 week of being a saver, you will want to see wealth. The identity shift is invisible at first. The votes are happening inside. The world cannot see them yet. Trust the process. The external world is always the last to know. It catches up eventually, but it catches up to the identity, not the goal. The goal demands immediate proof. The identity understands that proof is built in silence. Fourth, you will be tempted to announce your new identity. Do not. Announcements create pressure. Pressure creates performance anxiety. Performance anxiety creates retreat. When you announce a goal, your brain gets a hit of satisfaction as if you already achieved it. This is called social reality. The praise you receive for announcing feels like progress, but it is not progress. It is a counterfeit reward. It satisfies the part of you that needed validation, which means that part of you stops pushing. Let the identity build in silence. Let the evidence accumulate privately. When people notice the change, let them ask. Then you can tell them, but not before. The identity must be real before it is shared. Fifth, you will slip. You will vote for the old identity one day. You will skip the push-up. You will buy the impulse item. You will check the phone during the conversation. You will sleep in. You will eat the junk food. You will have the drink. This is not failure. This is data. One vote does not decide an election. One missed vote does not decide an identity. The question is never, did you mess up today? The question is, what is the trend of your votes? Are most of your votes for the new identity? If yes, you are on track. If no, adjust. But do not abandon the identity because of one bad day. Do not let one lost battle convince you that the war is over. The rule is simple. Never miss twice. You can have a bad day. You cannot have 2 in a row. If you miss one day, the next day, you vote for the new identity no matter what. Even if the vote is the smallest possible version, even if it is pathetic, even if it is embarrassing. 2 push-ups instead of 20. 1 sentence instead of 1 page. $1 instead of 100. The streak is not about perfection. It is about return. Returning is the whole game. Let me tell you something about the mirror. Most people look in the mirror and see who they were yesterday. They see the failures. They see the limitations. They see the evidence of the old identity. I want you to look in the mirror and see who you are becoming, not who you were, who you are voting for. Every vote changes the reflection, not immediately, but certainly. And the person in the mirror is not fixed. The person in the mirror is a work in progress, and you are the artist. There is one more thing you must understand about the lag time between votes and results. The world you live in now is the result of thousands of past votes. The body you have now is the result of thousands of past meals and movements. The bank account you have now is the result of thousands of past financial decisions. You cannot expect a few weeks of new votes to override years of old votes. The new votes must accumulate until they outnumber the old votes. That takes time. How much time? More than you want. Less than you fear. But the time will pass either way. The only question is what you are voting for while it passes. This is not about faking it until you make it. That phrase is poison. Faking implies deception. Deception creates internal conflict. Internal conflict creates self-sabotage. You are not faking anything. You are practicing. A musician practices before the concert. An athlete practices before the game. You are practicing your new identity before the results arrive. The practice is real. The votes are real. The identity is real. The results are simply the lagging indicator. Let me close with a simple challenge. Do not promise yourself a new life. Promise yourself one vote tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, before you eat. Before the world demands your attention, cast your vote. 2 push-ups, 1 sentence, $1, 1 minute of presence. Whatever you chose, do it. Then acknowledge it. Say to yourself, that is who I am now, because it is. The vote is the proof. The proof is the identity. Then do it again the next day, and the next. Do not think about the year. Do not think about the result. Think about today. Think about the vote. Think about the person you are becoming, because that person is already real. You are simply collecting the evidence, one vote at a time, one action at a time, one day at a time. The soldiers came home and stopped using heroin because heroin was no longer who they were. Not because they set a goal to quit, not because they found more willpower, not because they read a motivational book. Because their identity changed. And when identity changes, behavior follows without force, without struggle, without willpower. The behavior becomes obvious, natural, automatic. Decide who you are, then prove it. One vote at a time. But understand this. The first 100 votes feel like nothing. You are casting votes into what feels like a void. The world does not notice. Your body does not change. Your bank account does not change. Your relationships do not change. This is the valley of invisible effort. It is where most people quit. They quit because they mistake the absence of external feedback for the absence of progress. But the progress is happening inside your brain, inside your default mode network, inside the accumulating weight of evidence. End quote. The identity is forming in darkness. And one day, without warning, it crystallizes. You wake up, and the behavior is no longer hard. The choice is no longer debatable. You are simply being who you are. That day is closer than you think. But it only arrives if you keep voting through the silence. The results are already on their way. They just need you to show up as the person who receives them, and that person is already inside you, waiting for you to vote them into existence. Start tomorrow. One vote. That is all it takes, because one vote, repeated, becomes a landslide, and a landslide changes everything.